Hi, this is Owen. I'm going to talk about tipping and how to tip your robot, or hopefully how not to tip your robot. Um, this is an issue whenever robots have lifts that go up high to score things like the stash in this game, or it was particularly bad in Gateway with 30-inch goals, but this has a 40-inch hanging bar, so that could be a problem with tipping if robots go that high. So what you have to worry about here is your center of gravity, where it is, which you can use math to figure that out. I won't go into that because it's kind of complicated, but you can just see kind of by tilting your robot. So if you tilt your robot, right now it will fall back this way, which is good. There's a point at which it will keep going over, it's right there. So you can do that, and then you can think, will my robot ever be like this in a match? And I think not, for this much. Maybe like if your tipping point was there, you'd have a problem, because then if someone just bumps into you from the side, you're going down. And then you can test that going forward too. It rocks quite a bit more than you think it would though, but it will never get to that point. That's pretty far over. This can also get itself back up if you're going forward, which is a nice feature to have, but really you shouldn't be tipping in the first place. And then backwards, let's see, so going backwards is right there, which it can do. It can get this far backwards, which is not good. So one thing I did is I put these anti-tip pegs on, which you can see. This is the easiest and simplest way to make your robot not tip, besides just putting steel on the base. So the easiest way is just to put steel on the base, just have a good center of gravity to begin with, have aluminum on the lift, steel on the base. If you want to have hanging, you might want to have aluminum on the base, which is fair. But then you'll need to do one of these other methods. You probably should anyway. Your robot should be untippable. Okay, so what I did is I put these pegs here, and what that does is when it goes back, that peg hits the ground before it reaches the point where it's going to tip. So if I go full speed backwards and full speed forwards, it will not tip now, which is good. I think that's my threshold. Your robot should not tip if you go full speed forward, or full speed forward and then full speed backwards. Your robot should not tip if you do that. If I go full speed backwards, full speed forwards, then full speed backwards, it does, which might be okay because I won't do that in a match. But you should make sure you're not going to tip. You should make sure that if you do tip, it's someone tipping you, and you have to be so far back before you tip that it will be blatantly intentional if they do tip you. Because often teams get tipped and it wasn't intentional, or it's ruled as non-intentional because it looks like it might have been an accident because they just kind of bumped into them and they went over. But this, you'd have to push and then keep pushing to get it back that far to tip it. But it could still be a little bit better. Also, your anti-tip pegs, the farther they go to the ground, the less likely you are to tip. But this year, there's the bump, so it still needs to rock back that much to get over the bump, but doesn't need to rock back that much, which is why I put the pegs at that height. Another thing you can do is the Homer Simpson chair thing, which you may have seen. The Simpsons, there's pictures of it. It's he puts these boards on hinges on the back of his chair, so when he rocks back, it will catch him before he falls backwards. And that's just some pieces here that fold out when it falls back. So they're straight here, so it fits. And then as it goes back, this falls back, and that props itself against the ground so it doesn't tip. And I've heard people use those successfully. I haven't gotten them to work very well. So if someone's used those with success, if they want to like send me how they did that or how I could use that on this, because I was trying a little bit, but it wasn't quite working the way I wanted it to. Another method you can use is a flip out wheel. So just like an Omni wheel, a small Omni wheel on the back or on a piece of metal like that that's folded in with elastics pulling out. And then you have it like against the ground with friction or something at the beginning. And then when you drive, it pops out and then holds itself out. So that's like having your wheelbase back a little bit. And if you didn't know, the longer your wheelbase is, the less likely you are to tip. So have as long of a wheelbase as possible if you're having tipping issues. And the only reason to have a shorter one is a shorter one can make you turn a little bit quicker. But I think tipping is more of a priority. This wheelbase is kind of short just because this is a 15-inch robot and it needs to have a short wheelbase. But this will effectively make your wheelbase farther out. So if you try and tip like that, the wheel will just hit the ground and you won't be able to tip, which is good. And my team did this in Gateway, and some other teams did this in Sack Attack. Teams did this in Sack Attack, and it was pretty good. Because it can be elevated a little bit, unlike tip pegs. Well, these are elevated, so they can be, but it doesn't get caught on sacks very much. That's also again an issue this year. The bump is, so you'd have to make sure you could still get over the bump with any kind of tipping mechanism, anti-tipping mechanism. That's why I was thinking of this chair thing, but yeah, that's about it. If you have suggestions for that, tell me. But your robot, you should make it so it's impossible to tip, hopefully. This is possible to tip. I would like to change that. So, yeah.